The crystal chandeliers of Marcelo's restaurant cast bright light across the polished marble floors, illuminating tables filled with laughing families and clinking glasses. Theodore Bennett stood at the host's stand, his navy suit perfectly pressed, his silver hair immaculately combed, and his heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. "I'm sorry, sir, but we have no record of your reservation," the young hostess said, barely looking up from her computer screen. Her fingers tapped across the keyboard with mechanical efficiency. "And as you can see, we're completely booked for the evening." Theodore's hands trembled slightly as he pulled out his phone, scrolling to the confirmation email he had received 3 weeks ago. "But I made this reservation a month in advance. It's my 70th birthday. I specifically requested the corner table by the window." The hostess glanced at his phone, her expression unchanging. "I see the confirmation here, Mr. Bennett, but somehow your reservation was given to another party. Perhaps there was a system error. I can put you on the waiting list, but it will be at least 2 hours. 2 hours. Theodore looked around the restaurant, watching elderly couples share desserts, families gathered around large tables singing birthday songs, children laughing as servers brought out cakes with glowing candles. He had imagined himself sitting at one of those tables tonight, perhaps with his children, if they had answered his calls. Instead, he stood alone in the entrance, feeling more invisible than he had in his entire 70 years. "That won't be necessary," Theodore said quietly, turning toward the door. His chest felt tight. This was supposed to be different. After his wife Margaret's death 6 months ago, after years of putting business before family, after countless missed birthdays and holidays, he had decided to change. He had reached out to his children weeks ago, inviting them to this dinner. Neither Harold nor Camille had responded. Now he couldn't even secure a table for one. As Theodore moved toward the exit, a soft voice stopped him. "Excuse me, sir." He turned to see a beautiful African-American woman in a maroon dress standing from a small 2-person table near the window. Her daughter, who looked about 7 years old and wore a bright blue dress with white flowers, stood beside her. "I couldn't help but overhear," the woman said, her brown eyes warm with compassion. "My daughter and I have this table, and we'd be honored if you'd join us for dinner. No one should spend their birthday alone." Theodore opened his mouth to decline, to say he couldn't possibly intrude, but something in the woman's genuine smile stopped him. Margaret had always told him he was too proud, too used to doing everything alone. Maybe it was time to accept kindness when it was offered. "Are you certain? I wouldn't want to impose." "We're certain," the little girl said, her voice bright and confident. "Mommy always says sharing makes everything better. And you look really sad." The woman placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "This is Destiny and I'm Brielle Washington. Please join us." Theodore felt something shift in his chest. These strangers were offering him what his own children had denied him. Companionship, recognition, basic human dignity. "Theodore Bennett," he said, extending his hand. "And I would be grateful for the company." As they settled at the table, Theodore noticed the hostess watching with a frown, but he no longer cared. Brielle poured him water from the pitcher, and Destiny smiled at him with missing front teeth. "So it's really your birthday?" Destiny asked, her eyes wide. "How old are you?" "Destiny, that's not polite to ask," Brielle said gently. "It's quite all right," Theodore said, finding himself smiling for the first time that evening. "I'm 70 years old today." "Wow, that's really, really old," Destiny said. "Do you have grandchildren to celebrate with?" The question landed like a stone in Theodore's stomach. "No, I don't have grandchildren. I have 2 children, but we're not close anymore." "Why not?" Destiny asked with the innocent directness only children possess. Theodore looked at this young girl, so full of natural curiosity and kindness, and felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. "Because I made mistakes. I spent too much time working and not enough time showing them I loved them. And now they won't talk to me." Brielle's hand moved across the table, stopping just short of touching his. "I'm so sorry. That must be incredibly painful, especially today." "It is," Theodore admitted. The truth felt strange on his tongue. He had spent decades building walls, presenting a strong front, never admitting weakness. Yet here he sat, confessing his deepest regret to 2 strangers in a restaurant. Have you ever watched someone spend their birthday completely alone? If this story touches your heart, please subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us bring more stories of hope and redemption to light. The server approached their table, a young man with a practiced smile. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I start you off with some drinks?" Brielle glanced at the menu, and Theodore noticed her eyes widen slightly at the prices. She cleared her throat. Just water for us, thank you. Nonsense, Theodore said. Please order whatever you'd like. It's my birthday after all, and you've given me the greatest gift of all, your company. I insist. Brielle hesitated, and Theodore could see the pride warring with practicality in her expression. Mr. Bennett, that's very kind, but we can't. You can and you will, Theodore said gently. Please. You've already saved this evening from being the loneliest night of my life. Allow me to show my gratitude. Destiny tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, can I have the chicken fingers? Please? Brielle looked at Theodore, searching his face for something. Whatever she found there must have satisfied her because she nodded slowly. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. That's very generous. Theodore, please. And it's my pleasure. As they ordered, Theodore watched Brielle carefully. Her maroon dress was clean and pressed but showed signs of age at the seams. Her purse was well worn. When she ordered the least expensive item on the menu despite his encouragement to get anything she wanted, he understood. This was a woman who knew how to stretch every dollar, who probably counted pennies at the grocery store, who worked hard for everything she had. So, Brielle, what do you do? Theodore asked after the server left. I'm a housekeeper at the Riverside Hotel downtown, she said. And I work part-time at a grocery store on weekends. 2 jobs? That must be exhausting. Brielle smiled, but Theodore could see the weariness behind it. It keeps the lights on and food on the table. Destiny is my priority. As long as she's happy and healthy, I can handle being tired. What about Destiny's father? The question came out before Theodore could stop it. I'm sorry, that's too personal. It's okay, Brielle said. He left when I was pregnant. I haven't heard from him since. It's just the 2 of us, but we manage. We have each other, and that's what matters. Theodore looked at Destiny, who was coloring on the children's menu with crayons the server had brought. You're doing a wonderful job. She's clearly a special little girl. She is, Brielle said, her voice thick with emotion. She's my whole world. As their food arrived, the conversation flowed naturally. Destiny told Theodore about her school, about how she loved reading and wanted to be a teacher when she grew up. Brielle shared stories about her regular hotel guests, about the elderly woman who always requested extra towels and the businessman who left origami cranes made from dollar bills as tips. Theodore found himself laughing, really laughing, for the first time since Margaret's funeral. These 2 people, who had every reason to focus on their own struggles, had opened their hearts to a lonely old man. They had seen him not as a billionaire or a business titan, but simply as a human being who needed companionship. When dessert arrived, a server brought out a small cake with a single candle. Theodore looked at Brielle in surprise. I asked them to bring it, she said. Everyone deserves a birthday cake. Make a wish, Destiny said, bouncing in her seat. Theodore closed his eyes. 4 years he would have wished for another successful quarter, another acquisition, another trophy to add to his collection of achievements. Tonight he wished for something different. A chance to fix what he had broken, to build bridges instead of empires, to be the father he should have been all along. He blew out the candle and Destiny clapped her hands together. As they finished dessert, Theodore pulled out his wallet. When Brielle tried to protest paying for her and Destiny's meals, he simply shook his head. You've given me far more than a meal tonight. You've given me hope. The check came to $270. Theodore left $500, ensuring their server would remember this table. As they prepared to leave, Theodore made a decision. Brielle, would you mind if I walked you to your car? I have something I'd like to discuss with you. Outside, the evening air was cool and clean. The parking lot was well lit, bright lights illuminating their path. Destiny skipped ahead slightly while Brielle and Theodore walked slowly behind her. You mentioned working 2 jobs, Theodore said. And I couldn't help but notice you ordered the least expensive items on the menu, even when I encouraged you to get what you truly wanted. Brielle stopped walking, her shoulders tensing. Mr. Bennett, if this is about charity, I appreciate your kindness tonight, but I can take care of my daughter. I have no doubt about that, Theodore said. But what if I told you I could help make your life a little easier? Not charity but opportunity. Brielle turned to face him, her expression guarded. What kind of opportunity? Theodore took a breath. For decades he had made business deals worth millions, negotiated contracts that shaped industries, built an empire from nothing. But this felt more important than any of that. This felt like the beginning of something that mattered. I own several companies, he said. One of them desperately needs someone with your work ethic and dedication. I'd like to offer you a position with better pay, better hours, and benefits. And before you say no, this isn't charity. I've spent the evening watching how you interact with your daughter, how you speak to servers, how you conduct yourself. You're exactly the kind of person I want working for my company. Brielle's eyes filled with tears. I don't understand. You just met me. Sometimes, Theodore said softly, the most important connections happen in a single moment. You saw a lonely old man and showed him kindness. Let me return the favor. 3 days after the dinner at Marcello's, Brielle sat in the lobby of Bennett Enterprises, her hands folded in her lap, trying to control her racing heart. The building stretched 43 stories into the sky, all glass and steel and ambition. She had taken 2 buses to get here, leaving Destiny with her sister Gabrielle, who had insisted this was an opportunity Brielle couldn't refuse. Girl, billionaires don't just offer people jobs, Gabrielle had said that morning, braiding Destiny's hair for school. This is divine intervention. Take it. Now, sitting in a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent, Brielle wondered if she was in over her head. The receptionist, a polished woman in her 30s wearing a green blazer, had checked her in 20 minutes ago and offered her coffee in a real china cup, not a paper one. Ms. Washington? A woman in her 50s approached, wearing a professional gray suit. I'm Patricia Coleman, head of human resources. Mr. Bennett is ready to see you. Brielle followed Patricia into an elevator with mirrors on every wall. She caught sight of her reflection and felt a pang of self-consciousness. Her best interview outfit, a navy blue dress she'd bought at a thrift store 3 years ago, suddenly felt inadequate. Don't be nervous, Patricia said kindly as they rose through the building. Mr. Bennett spoke very highly of you. He said you remind him of his late wife. The elevator doors opened on the 40th floor, revealing a space filled with natural light. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the entire city. Theodore's office sat at the end of a long hallway, its double doors made of rich mahogany. Patricia knocked and opened the door. Theodore stood from behind a massive desk, his face breaking into a genuine smile. Brielle, thank you for coming. Please sit down. Patricia excused herself, closing the door behind her. Brielle settled into a chair across from Theodore, noticing family photos on his desk. A beautiful woman with kind eyes, 2 children at various ages, images of happier times. That's Margaret, Theodore said, following her gaze. My wife. She passed 6 months ago. I'm so sorry, Brielle said. She was beautiful. She was everything, Theodore said quietly. And she would have loved meeting you and Destiny. She always believed in helping people, in seeing the good in everyone. I spent so many years focused on building this company that I forgot what really mattered. Margaret never forgot. She tried to tell me, but I didn't listen. He pulled out a folder from his desk drawer and opened it. I meant what I said at the restaurant. I want to offer you a position here. Director of Community Outreach and Employee Relations. The salary is $85,000 a year with full health benefits, 3 weeks paid vacation and a company car. Brielle's breath caught in her throat. $85,000? Mr. Bennett, I make $22,000 a year working 2 jobs. This can't be real. It's very real, Theodore said. The position has been vacant for 3 months. We've interviewed dozens of candidates, but none of them had what I'm looking for. Genuine empathy, strong character, and the ability to connect with people. You demonstrated all of that in one evening. But I don't have a college degree, Brielle said, her voice small. I got pregnant with Destiny when I was 25 and never finished. I've been working and raising her ever since. Theodore leaned forward. Some of the best people I've ever known never set foot in a university. My wife was one of them. She had a high school education and more wisdom than most PhDs I've met. This position requires heart, not credentials. I can teach you the administrative aspects. I can't teach someone to care about people the way you do. Brielle's hands shook as she looked at the contract Theodore pushed across the desk. Everything he promised was there in black and white. Health insurance that would cover Destiny's dental work. A salary that would let them move out of their tiny apartment with the leaking ceiling. Security she had only dreamed about. Why are you doing this? She asked. Really? Theodore sat back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. Because that night at the restaurant, you and Destiny reminded me what I've lost. You showed me kindness when you had every reason to focus on your own struggles. You invited a stranger to your table when most people would have walked past. And watching you with Destiny, seeing how much you love her, how hard you work for her, it reminded me of what I failed to do for my own children. Your children? Brielle said slowly. Have they reached out since your birthday? No, Theodore said, and the pain in his voice was evident. I've called, sent messages, even written letters. Nothing. Harold is a corporate lawyer in Chicago. Camille runs an art gallery in Boston. Both successful, both completely done with me. What happened between you? Theodore stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the city he had conquered but the family he had lost. I missed Harold's high school graduation because of a merger. I forgot Camille's wedding anniversary dinner because of a board meeting. When Margaret got sick, they begged me to step back from work, to spend her final months really present. I promised I would, but I didn't. I kept taking calls, kept making deals. They were there when she died. I was on a conference call in the hospital cafeteria. Brielle felt tears prick her eyes. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry for me, Theodore said. Be sorry for them. They deserved a better father. Margaret deserved a better husband. I built this empire, and for what? To sit alone on my 70th birthday, unwanted and unloved by the only people who truly matter. He turned back to face her. That's why I'm offering you this job, Brielle. Not because I pity you, but because I need people like you in my life. People who understand what truly matters. People who can help me figure out how to be better. Brielle looked at the contract again. Every instinct told her to be cautious, to question, to protect herself. But another voice, one that sounded suspiciously like her late mother, whispered that some blessings come wrapped in unexpected packages. I accept, she said. With gratitude and a promise to work harder than anyone else in this building. Theodore smiled, and for the first time, Brielle saw hope in his eyes. When can you start? I need to give 2 weeks' notice at both my jobs, Brielle said. It's the right thing to do. Of course, Theodore said. That gives us time to set up your office and get you oriented. Patricia will handle all the paperwork and details. As Brielle stood to leave, Theodore stopped her with a question. How is Destiny doing? Is she excited about the end of the school year? She's doing well, Brielle said. Though I got a notice yesterday that I owe $800 for after-school care. I've been making payment plans, but it's hard to catch up. Theodore picked up his phone and pressed a button. Patricia, please come in for a moment. When Patricia entered, Theodore said, I need you to process an advance payment for Ms. Washington. $800 to be delivered today. Mr. Bennett, you don't have to do that, Brielle protested. I know I don't have to, Theodore said. But I want to. Consider it a signing bonus. Your daughter shouldn't suffer because of billing issues at her school. Pay it off, clear your head of that worry, and start this new chapter without that burden. Brielle felt tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to thank you. Thank me by accepting help when it's offered, Theodore said gently. Something I'm still learning to do myself. An hour later, Brielle sat on the bus heading home, a check for $800 in her purse and a contract that would change her life folded carefully in her bag. She pulled out her phone and called Gabrielle. Well, her sister answered. Don't keep me waiting. Gabby, it's real. All of it. $85,000 a year. Health insurance. Everything. Gabrielle screamed so loud that other passengers on the bus turned to look at Brielle. Girl, I told you. I told you this was divine intervention. When do you start? 2 weeks. And Gabby, he gave me money to pay off Destiny's school fees. Just handed it over like it was nothing. Because to him it is nothing, Gabrielle said. But to us it's everything. Brielle, this is your chance. Our chance. You take this job and you run with it. You show that man he made the right choice. I will, Brielle promised. I'm going to make him proud. That evening, after picking up Destiny from Gabrielle's apartment, Brielle took her daughter out for pizza. Not the frozen kind they usually had, but real pizza from Antonio's, where they sat in a booth and Destiny got to choose her own toppings. Mommy, why are you so happy? Destiny asked, tomato sauce on her chin. Because good things are happening, baby, Brielle said. Remember the nice man from the restaurant? Mr. Theodore? The birthday man who was all alone? Yes. Well, he offered Mommy a new job. A really, really good job. Which means we're going to be okay. More than okay. Destiny's eyes widened. Does that mean we can get a new apartment? One where the ceiling doesn't drip? Brielle laughed through happy tears. Yes, baby. We can get a better apartment. And you can have your own room with space for all your books and toys. And can we invite Mr. Theodore over? Destiny asked. Because he's still alone, right? He doesn't have anyone to celebrate with. We could be his family. Brielle's heart swelled. Her daughter, who had so little, wanted to share what they had with someone who had everything except what mattered most. That's a beautiful idea, sweetheart. I think Mr. Theodore would really like that. As they finished their pizza, Brielle made a silent promise to herself and to Theodore. She would take this opportunity and transform it into something meaningful. She would work hard, prove her worth, and maybe, just maybe, help a lonely old man find his way back to his family. And if she was very blessed, perhaps along the way she and Destiny would gain something they had been missing too. A grandfather figure, a mentor, a friend who understood that family was made not just by blood, but by choice, compassion, and love. The next morning, Brielle went to both her jobs and gave notice. Her supervisor at the hotel was sorry to see her go but congratulated her on the opportunity. The grocery store manager, a kind older man named Mr. Robertson, shook her hand and told her he always knew she was destined for greater things. Her co-workers threw her a small goodbye party, bringing cupcakes and cheap champagne in plastic cups. They toasted to her success, to new beginnings, to proof that hard work and good character eventually got rewarded. But it wasn't just hard work, Brielle thought as she accepted their hugs and well wishes. It was kindness. It was seeing someone in pain and choosing to help. It was teaching her daughter that compassion matters more than comfort, that sharing your table with a stranger might just change both your lives. As Brielle left the hotel for the last time, carrying a small box of her belongings, she looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, she hoped her mother was watching, proud of the woman her daughter had become, proud of the values she had instilled that had led to this moment. "Thank you, Mama," Brielle whispered, "for teaching me to see people, not just pass by them. For showing me that kindness is never wasted." The sun broke through the clouds, bathing the street in bright, clear light. Brielle smiled and headed home to her daughter, to her future, to a life that was about to become so much more than she had ever dared to imagine. Brielle's first day at Bennett Enterprises arrived on a Monday morning in early June. She stood outside the building at 7:30, 15 minutes early, wearing a new green dress that Gabrielle had insisted on buying her. The fabric felt stiff and unfamiliar, but her sister had been adamant. "You're a director now," Gabrielle had said while they shopped. "You need to look the part. No more thrift store finds. This is an investment in your future." Now, clutching her new leather portfolio, another gift from Gabrielle, Brielle took a deep breath and walked through the revolving doors into her new life. Patricia Coleman met her in the lobby, her smile warm and welcoming. "Right on time. Actually early. That's good. Mr. Bennett values punctuality." She handed Brielle a badge on a lanyard. "This will get you through security and into your office. You're on the 38th floor." As they rode the elevator, Patricia briefed her on the day's schedule. "You'll spend the morning with me going over policies and procedures. After lunch, Mr. Bennett wants to meet with you to discuss his vision for the community outreach program. Then you'll meet your assistant, Grace, who will help you get settled." "I have an assistant?" Brielle asked, her voice squeaking slightly. Patricia laughed. "You're a director. Of course you have an assistant. Grace has been with the company for 12 years. She knows everything about how this place runs. Trust her, lean on her, and you'll do fine." Brielle's office took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the river. A sleek desk sat in front of built-in bookshelves. 2 comfortable chairs faced the desk, and a small conference table occupied the corner. Fresh flowers, bright red roses, sat in a vase on her desk with a note. "Welcome to the team. Trust yourself. Theodore." "It's beautiful," Brielle whispered. "Mr. Bennett had it redecorated last week," Patricia said. "He wanted you to feel at home." The morning passed in a blur of orientation materials, employee handbooks, and introductions to various department heads. Everyone was polite, professional, and curious about the woman Theodore Bennett had personally hired. Brielle could feel their questions, their skepticism, but she kept her head high and her focus sharp. At noon, Patricia escorted her to Theodore's office. He stood when she entered, coming around his desk to shake her hand formally. "Brielle, how's your first morning?" "Overwhelming but exciting," she admitted. "Everyone has been very welcoming." "Good. Sit please." Theodore returned to his chair and pulled out a thick folder. "I want to talk to you about what I envision for this position. For too long, this company has focused solely on profit margins and shareholder value. Those things matter, but they're not everything. Margaret always said a business should serve its community, not just extract from it." He opened the folder, revealing financial reports and demographic data. "I want to create programs that actually help people. Scholarship funds for single parents pursuing education. Childcare assistance for employees. Partnerships with local schools. Community centers in underserved neighborhoods. I have the resources. What I need is someone who understands the real needs of real people." Brielle leaned forward, studying the documents. "This is incredible, Mr. Bennett, but it will require significant funding." "I have significant funding," Theodore said simply. Money I've accumulated over decades of building this company. Margaret and I never had extravagant taste. We lived well but not excessively. When she died, I realized I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. It should do some good. Your children, Brielle said carefully. Won't they inherit this? Theodore's expression darkened. If they want anything to do with me, yes. But right now they don't. And I can't force them. What I can do is build something meaningful, something that honors Margaret's memory and maybe somehow shows them that I've changed. Brielle spent the next 2 hours discussing ideas with Theodore. She talked about the single mothers she had worked with at the hotel, women working 3 jobs and still falling behind. She described the children she saw in her neighborhood, bright and full of potential but lacking resources. She painted pictures of real people with real struggles, and Theodore listened intently, taking notes. You have a gift, he said when she finished. You see people as individuals, not statistics. That's exactly what this program needs. I just know what it's like, Brielle said. To count pennies. To choose between paying the electric bill or buying groceries. To lie awake at night worried about your child's future. I've lived it, Mr. Bennett. I'm still living it even with this new job. It takes time to recover from years of financial stress. Theodore was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, how much do you owe? In total. Rent arrears, credit cards, medical bills, everything. Brielle's face flushed. Mr. Bennett, I couldn't possibly. How much, Brielle? She looked down at her hands. About $12,000. I've been making minimum payments, but the interest keeps piling up. It feels like I'm running on a treadmill, working as hard as I can but never getting anywhere. Theodore picked up his phone. Patricia, please come to my office. When Patricia arrived, Theodore said, I need you to cut a check for $12,000, made out to Brielle Washington. Immediately. Mr. Bennett, no, Brielle protested, standing up. I can't accept that. The job is already more than enough. Sit down, Brielle, Theodore said, his voice gentle but firm. Please. She sat, tears already forming in her eyes. Here's what I've learned in 70 years, Theodore said. Pride is expensive. It costs relationships, opportunities, and peace of mind. I spent my whole life too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to accept it when offered. I lost my wife, my children, and almost lost my own humanity because of it. Don't make my mistakes. But this is too much, Brielle whispered. It's not even a rounding error in my annual budget, Theodore said bluntly. And more importantly, it's an investment. How can you focus on building this program if you're worried about debt collectors calling? How can you give your best to this work if you're exhausted from financial stress? I need you at your best, Brielle. And you can't be at your best while drowning in debt. Patricia stood quietly, waiting for confirmation. Theodore nodded at her and she left to prepare the check. There's one condition, Theodore said. You accept this help with gratitude instead of guilt. You take this gift and use it to free yourself from financial bondage. And then you pay it forward by helping others through the programs we're going to build together. Deal? Brielle wiped her eyes. Deal. And thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, Theodore said with a small smile. You're going to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. I'm demanding, impatient, and I have impossibly high standards. Ask anyone who's ever worked for me. I'm not afraid of hard work, Brielle said. I'm afraid of letting you down. You won't, Theodore said with certainty. You know how I know? Because you care. You actually care about people. That's rarer than you think in this world. Over the next few weeks, Brielle threw herself into her new role. Grace, her assistant, was a godsend. A cheerful woman in her 40s who knew every shortcut, every procedure, every person worth knowing in the company. She taught Brielle how to navigate the corporate structure, how to get things done, how to build alliances. Mr. Bennett hasn't been this engaged in years, Grace confided one afternoon. Usually he just signs off on quarterly reports and attends board meetings. But this community outreach program has him energized. He's in here asking questions, making suggestions, actually caring about the work. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Brielle used the money Theodore had given her to pay off every outstanding bill. For the first time in 8 years, she received a credit card statement that said, balance, 0. She cried looking at it, then called Gabrielle to share the news. This is real, Gabrielle kept saying. This is actually happening. You're not just surviving anymore. You're thriving. With her new salary, Brielle found a 2-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood with good schools. Destiny would have her own room, a small backyard to play in, and neighbors who weren't shouting at all hours. The deposit and first month's rent took a significant chunk of her first paycheck, but Brielle didn't care. They were building a foundation for a better life. Moving day arrived on a Saturday. Brielle and Gabrielle had packed everything into boxes, ready for the rental truck. As they loaded furniture, a luxury car pulled up to the curb. Theodore stepped out wearing casual clothes, khaki pants and a red polo shirt. "I hope you don't mind," he said. "I thought you might need some help." Before Brielle could respond, a moving truck pulled up behind Theodore's car. Professional movers stepped out, ready to work. "Mr. Bennett, you didn't have to do this," Brielle said. "I know," Theodore replied. "But I wanted to." "Where's Destiny?" "Inside, packing her toys." Theodore walked into the apartment, and moments later, Brielle heard Destiny's delighted squeal. "Mr. Theodore, you came to help us move." "Of course I did," Theodore's voice carried through the open door. "Moving is hard work. You need all the help you can get." Gabrielle leaned close to Brielle. "Girl, that man is an angel. Don't you dare let him go." The movers made quick work of the furniture while Theodore entertained Destiny, letting her show him each of her stuffed animals and books. Gabrielle and Brielle packed the kitchen, wrapping dishes in newspaper. "He looks happy," Gabrielle observed, watching Theodore through the window as he helped Destiny tape up a box. "Like genuinely happy. When's the last time you think someone needed him, not his money but actually him?" "Probably not since his wife died," Brielle said softly. "You're good for each other," Gabrielle said. "He needed to remember how to care about people. You needed someone to believe in you. This isn't just a job, sis. This is family forming." By late afternoon, everything was loaded and transported to the new apartment. The movers efficiently arranged furniture while Brielle directed placement. Destiny ran through her new bedroom, her laughter echoing off walls that didn't have water stains or cracks. Theodore stood in the living room looking around with satisfaction. "This is a good home. You've done well, Brielle." "Because of you," Brielle said. "All of this is because of you." "No," Theodore corrected gently. "All of this is because you showed kindness to a stranger. You made room at your table. Everything that's happening now is the universe returning what you gave so freely." As the movers finished and left, Gabrielle ordered pizza for everyone. They sat on the floor of Brielle's new living room, eating from paper plates, and for the first time in recent memory, Brielle felt truly at peace. "Mr. Theodore," Destiny said, tomato sauce on her face, "now that we have a bigger place, can you come visit us more? Mommy says you live all alone in a big house. That sounds lonely." Theodore's eyes grew misty. "I would love that, Destiny. Thank you for inviting me. And maybe," Destiny continued with the blunt honesty of childhood, "you could call your kids and invite them too. Family should be together. That's what Mommy always says." The room fell silent. Brielle opened her mouth to redirect the conversation, but Theodore held up a hand. "You're absolutely right," he said to Destiny. "Family should be together. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Maybe it's time I tried again." After Theodore left and Gabrielle headed home, Brielle tucked Destiny into bed in her new room. The walls were painted a soft blue, and through the window they could see stars, unobstructed by the previous apartment's view of a brick wall. "Mommy," Destiny said sleepily, "Mr. Theodore is like a grandpa, isn't he?" "He's like a very good friend who cares about us," Brielle said. "But we could share him with his real kids if they came back," Destiny said. "There's enough love for everyone. You taught me that." Brielle kissed her daughter's forehead. "You're wise beyond your years, baby. Yes, there's always enough love for everyone." As she turned off the light and closed the door, Brielle thought about Theodore's face when Destiny had suggested calling his children. There had been pain there but also hope. Maybe, with a little encouragement and a lot of courage, healing was possible. She made a mental note to talk to Theodore about it. Not to push but to support. To remind him that the same grace he had shown her, that she had shown him, could be extended to estranged family members. That sometimes bridges needed to be built one phone call, one letter, one olive branch at a time. Change was possible. Second chances were real. And love, when given freely and accepted with gratitude, could transform everything. 3 months into her new role, Brielle had transformed the community outreach department from a vague concept into a functioning reality. The scholarship fund for single parents had received over 200 applications. The employee childcare program had a waiting list. And partnerships with 3 local schools were providing after-school tutoring and meals for children who needed them. Theodore attended every planning meeting, asked detailed questions, and pushed for even more ambitious programs. Brielle watched him come alive in ways Grace said she hadn't seen in years. He remembered staff members' names, asked about their families, stayed late to review proposals instead of leaving at 5 o'clock sharp as he had done for decades. "You've given him purpose," Patricia told Brielle one afternoon. "More than that, you've given him hope." But Brielle could also see the sadness that lingered in Theodore's eyes during quiet moments. At staff celebrations, when people talked about their children and grandchildren, he would smile and nod, but his gaze would drift somewhere distant. He never mentioned Harold or Camille, though Brielle knew from Grace that he still tried to call them weekly, leaving messages that went unreturned. One Thursday evening, as Brielle prepared to leave for the day, Theodore knocked on her office door. "Do you have a few minutes?" he asked. "Of course." He settled into one of the chairs facing her desk, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "I need your advice. Or maybe just someone to talk to. Gabrielle mentioned last week that you lost both your parents young." "I did," Brielle said. "My father when I was 15, my mother when I was 23. Right before I found out I was pregnant with Destiny. Do you have regrets? Things you wish you'd said or done differently?" Brielle considered the question carefully. "I regret not asking my mother more questions about her life before she became a parent. I regret not recording her voice, her laugh. I regret every time I was impatient or too busy to just sit with her. But I don't regret that she knew I loved her. I made sure of that, especially at the end." Theodore nodded slowly. "My children don't know I love them. Or if they do, they don't believe it anymore. I showed love through money, through providing, but I didn't show up. Not when it mattered." "It's not too late," Brielle said gently. "Isn't it? They won't return my calls. They've made it clear they want nothing to do with me. Then maybe calling isn't enough. Maybe you need to try something different." Theodore looked up. "Like what?" "Like a letter," Brielle suggested. "A real letter, handwritten, from your heart. Not asking for anything, not expecting anything. Just telling them the truth about how you feel, what you regret, and how you're trying to change." "I wouldn't know where to start," Theodore admitted. "Start with an apology," Brielle said. "Start with taking responsibility. Start with love." Over the next week, Theodore drafted letters to both Harold and Camille. He wrote them longhand, crossing out sentences, starting over, wrestling with words that didn't come easily. Brielle offered guidance but let him find his own voice. Finally, on a Friday afternoon, he showed her the finished products. To Harold, he had written about missing his high school graduation, about choosing a merger over watching his son become a man. He apologized for teaching Harold that success meant money and power instead of character and compassion. He acknowledged that Harold had become a good man despite his father's failures, not because of them. To Camille, he wrote about her wedding day, about how beautiful she had looked and how he had barely noticed because he was on his phone closing a deal. He apologized for not walking her down the aisle with his full attention, for treating the most important day of her life as an interruption to his work. He told her that her mother had been so proud of the woman she had become, and that he should have said it more often. In both letters, he wrote about meeting Brielle and Destiny, about how their kindness had cracked open his heart and shown him what he had lost. He told them he was trying to be better, not to earn forgiveness, but because it was the right thing to do. He ended both letters with the same line, "I love you. I always have. And I understand if you can't love me back right now." "They're perfect," Brielle said, tears in her eyes. "Honest and humble and full of love. Do you think they'll respond?" Theodore asked. "I don't know," Brielle answered truthfully. "But I know you'll never forgive yourself if you don't try." Theodore mailed the letters that evening. Then began the hardest part, waiting. Days turned into weeks with no response. Theodore tried not to show his disappointment, but Brielle could see it weighing on him. He threw himself deeper into work, approving funding for a new community center, expanding the scholarship program, personally interviewing candidates for teaching positions at their partner schools. Meanwhile, Brielle's life continued to transform. Destiny flourished in her new school, making friends and excelling in reading. Gabrielle had started dating a kind man named Marcus, a teacher at the local high school. The sisters spent Sunday afternoons together, cooking and laughing and building the kind of family stability Brielle had always wanted for her daughter. Theodore had become a regular fixture in their lives. He attended Destiny's school plays, always bringing flowers. He came to Sunday dinners, arriving with desserts from expensive bakeries that Destiny devoured with enthusiasm. He taught Destiny to play chess and listened patiently to her stories about school. "You know what I like about you, Mr. Theodore?" Destiny said one Sunday, moving her knight across the chessboard. "You're here. Not just in body but really here. You listen and remember things and care. Theodore looked at this 7-year-old child who somehow saw straight into his soul. That's the nicest thing anyone has said to me in a very long time. Well, it's true, Destiny said matter-of-factly. Checkmate. Theodore studied the board and laughed. You beat me again. You're getting too good at this. That's because you're a good teacher, Destiny said. Good teachers make students better. After Destiny went to bed, Brielle and Theodore sat on her small balcony, drinking tea and watching the city lights. Thank you, Theodore said quietly. For what? For letting me be part of your life. For giving me purpose. For reminding me what family should feel like. You've done far more for us, Brielle protested. No, Theodore said firmly. Money is easy. Anyone with a checkbook can write checks. But time, attention, genuine care, those are the things that matter. You've given me those things freely. You've let me into your family when I didn't deserve it. Everyone deserves love and connection, Brielle said. Even grumpy billionaires who made mistakes. Theodore smiled. Is that what I am? Reformed grumpy billionaire, Brielle corrected with a grin. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Brielle said, Your children will come around. I believe that. I'm not sure I do, Theodore admitted. But I'm trying to be okay with it either way. I'm trying to build a life that has meaning regardless of whether they choose to be part of it. That's growth, Brielle said. That's healing. The next morning at work, Grace buzzed Brielle's office with unusual excitement. You need to come to Mr. Bennett's office right now. Brielle hurried down the hall, her heart racing. When she entered, Theodore was sitting at his desk, holding a letter, his hands shaking. It's from Camille, he said, his voice thick with emotion. She responded. What does it say? Theodore held out the letter, and Brielle read it aloud. Dad, I received your letter. I've read it a dozen times. I'm not ready to forget the past or pretend everything is fine. But I'm willing to talk. Just talk. If you're still interested, I'll be in the city next month for a gallery showing. We could meet for coffee. No promises beyond that. Camille. Brielle looked up to see tears streaming down Theodore's face. She called me Dad. She hasn't called me Dad in 5 years. This is wonderful, Brielle said. This is a start. I'm terrified, Theodore admitted. What if I mess it up? What if I say the wrong thing? Then you apologize and try again, Brielle said. That's what love is. Showing up, messing up, apologizing and showing up again. You've learned that with us. Now you get to practice it with Camille. Theodore took a deep breath. Will you help me prepare? I don't want to waste this chance. Of course, Brielle said. We'll practice conversations. We'll think through what you want to say. And most importantly, we'll make sure you listen. Really listen. That's the most important part. Over the next 3 weeks, Brielle helped Theodore prepare for his meeting with Camille. They role-played difficult conversations. She taught him to ask open-ended questions, to validate feelings instead of defending himself, to sit with discomfort instead of trying to fix everything immediately. Remember, Brielle said the night before his meeting, you're not trying to win an argument. You're trying to rebuild a bridge. One honest conversation at a time. Theodore nodded, looking more nervous than Brielle had ever seen him. What if she never forgives me? Then you love her anyway, Brielle said simply. You show up anyway. You be the father she deserves anyway. Not because you'll get something in return, but because it's right. The next morning, Theodore left for his coffee meeting with Camille. Brielle spent the day distracted, checking her phone every few minutes, praying that it would go well. At 4 o'clock, Theodore returned to the office. Brielle met him in the hallway, searching his face for clues. How did it go? Theodore's eyes were red but peaceful. We talked for 3 hours. Really talked. She cried. I cried. We didn't solve everything, but she agreed to meet again next month. And she said something that gave me hope. What? She said, I can see you're trying, Dad. That matters. Theodore's voice broke. It matters? That's all I needed to hear. Brielle hugged him, this man who had become so much more than a boss, so much more than a benefactor. I'm so proud of you. I'm going to write to Harold tonight, Theodore said. Even if he doesn't respond. Even if it takes years. I'm going to keep trying. That's all any of us can do, Brielle said. Keep trying. Keep loving. Keep hoping. That evening, Brielle told Destiny about Theodore's meeting with his daughter. Destiny clapped her hands together. See, Mommy? I told you family comes back together. Love always wins. Brielle hoped her daughter was right. She hoped that Theodore's consistent efforts would eventually break through Harold's walls too. She hoped that this family, fractured by years of neglect and pain, could find their way back to each other. But more than hope, she felt gratitude. Gratitude that she had listened to her instincts that night at the restaurant. Gratitude that she had made room at her table for a lonely stranger. Gratitude that kindness, offered freely and accepted with grace, had created ripples that were now touching multiple lives. Change was slow. Healing was painful. But both were possible when people chose love over pride, connection over isolation, vulnerability over self-protection. And sometimes, just sometimes, one small act of kindness could set in motion a transformation that nobody saw coming. The autumn leaves had turned brilliant shades of red and gold when Theodore received a phone call that changed everything. He was in a board meeting presenting the quarterly results of the community outreach program, when his phone buzzed with a Chicago number he hadn't seen in years. Harold. Theodore excused himself, his hands trembling as he stepped into the hallway and answered. Dad. The voice was uncertain, distant, but it was his son. Harold, Theodore said, his voice catching. Thank you for calling. I got your letter, Harold said. Actually, I've gotten all your letters. I just wasn't ready to read them until now. I understand. There was a long pause. Then Harold said, Camille told me about your meeting. She said you've changed. That you're actually trying. I am, Theodore said. I know words don't mean much after all these years. But I'm trying to show through my actions that I'm not the same man I was. I want to believe that, Harold admitted. But I'm angry, Dad. I'm so angry at you for everything you missed, everything you chose work over. Mom's death nearly broke me and you weren't even there. Not really. Theodore leaned against the wall, letting the pain of those words wash over him. You have every right to be angry. I failed you. I failed your mother. I failed your sister. There's no excuse for it. Then why did you do it? Harold's voice rose. Why was building an empire more important than being a father? Because I was a coward, Theodore said quietly. Because I didn't know how to be vulnerable, how to show emotions, how to just be present. I could close deals and win contracts because those had rules, formulas, strategies. But being a father, being a husband, those required opening my heart and I didn't know how. So I hid in what I knew. And I lost everything that mattered. Harold was silent for a long moment. Camille said you've been mentoring a single mother and her daughter. That you've created programs to help families. I have. Brielle and her daughter Destiny showed me what I'd been missing. They invited me into their lives when they had every reason not to. And it changed me. I want to meet them, Harold said abruptly. If you're telling the truth, if you've really changed, I want to see it for myself. I'm coming to the city next weekend. Let's have dinner. You, me, Camille, and this family you've adopted. Theodore's heart raced. Are you sure? No, Harold said honestly. But I'm willing to try. For Mom. She would want us to try. After the call ended, Theodore stood in the hallway for several minutes, processing what had just happened. Both his children were willing to give him a chance. The bridge he thought was permanently burned might actually be reparable. He went immediately to Brielle's office. She was on the phone but ended the call when she saw his face. What happened? Harold called. He and Camille want to have dinner next weekend. With you and Destiny if you're willing. Brielle's eyes widened. With us? Why? Because Harold wants to see if I've really changed. And he thinks meeting you will help him understand. That's a lot of pressure, Brielle said. I know. And I'll understand if you say no. Brielle thought for a moment, then shook her head. Of course we'll come. You've been there for us every step of the way. We'll be there for you too. The week leading up to the dinner felt like the longest of Theodore's life. He changed reservations 3 times trying to find the perfect restaurant. Not too formal, not too casual. Somewhere comfortable where conversation could flow naturally. He consulted with Brielle daily, overthinking every detail. What should he wear? What should he say? What if Harold and Camille decided within 5 minutes that nothing had changed? Theodore, Brielle finally said on Thursday afternoon, you're spiraling. Stop overthinking. Just be yourself. The self you've become, not the self you were. That's all anyone can ask. Gabrielle, when Brielle told her about the dinner, was both excited and nervous. Girl, you're about to meet a billionaire's children. That's intense. They're just people, Brielle said. People who are hurting and trying to heal. Just like everyone else. People who probably went to Ivy League schools and summer in the Hamptons, Gabrielle pointed out. Don't forget your roots, but also don't let them intimidate you. You belong at that table just as much as they do. Saturday arrived with perfect autumn weather. Brielle chose a burgundy dress, elegant but not flashy. She helped Destiny into a bright green dress with a white collar, braiding her daughter's hair carefully. "Mommy, why are you so nervous?" Destiny asked, watching Brielle redo her lipstick for the third time. "Because tonight is important for Mr. Theodore. We want to make a good impression on his children." "What? We're already his friends. Isn't that enough?" Brielle knelt down to Destiny's level. "His children haven't seen him in a long time. They're not sure if he's really changed. We get to show them that he has. That he's kind and caring and generous." "He is those things," Destiny said confidently. "They'll see it too." Theodore picked them up in his car, looking distinguished in a navy suit and red tie. He was visibly anxious, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. "You look beautiful," he told Brielle. "Both of you." "You look nervous," Brielle said gently. "I am. Terrified actually. What if this goes wrong? What if I say the wrong thing?" "Then we'll handle it together," Brielle said. "You're not alone in this." The restaurant Theodore had chosen was elegant but warm, with soft lighting and comfortable booths. They arrived first, settling into a large corner booth. Theodore checked his watch every 30 seconds. At exactly 7 o'clock, 2 people entered the restaurant. The woman was tall and graceful, with her mother's eyes and her father's determined chin. She wore a stunning blue dress and carried herself with confidence. The man was stockier, serious-looking, with Theodore's build and a lawyer's assessing gaze. He wore a gray suit that probably cost more than Brielle's monthly salary. Theodore stood, his face a mixture of hope and fear. "Camille." "Harold." Camille moved forward first, embracing her father stiffly. "Hi, Dad." Harold shook Theodore's hand, formal and distant. "Father." Theodore turned to introduce Brielle and Destiny. "This is Brielle Washington and her daughter Destiny. They're the reason I'm standing here today trying to be better." Brielle stood and extended her hand to Camille. "It's wonderful to meet you. Your father speaks about you constantly." Camille's handshake was firm, her smile polite but guarded. "He's mentioned you as well. Said you saved his life." "I think we saved each other," Brielle said. Harold studied Destiny with interest. "And how old are you, young lady?" 7, Destiny said, unintimidated by his serious demeanor. "And I already know I want to be a teacher when I grow up." "What do you do?" Harold's stern expression cracked slightly. "I'm a lawyer." "Do you help people?" Destiny asked. "I try to." "Then you're doing important work," Destiny said seriously. "Helping people is the most important thing." They settled into the booth, an awkward silence falling over the table. The server came to take drink orders, providing a brief distraction. Finally, Camille spoke. "So, Brielle, Dad said you work for his company now?" "I do. I head the Community Outreach and Employee Relations Department. We've launched several programs to help single parents and underserved communities." "That's admirable," Camille said. "How did you meet my father?" Brielle glanced at Theodore, who nodded encouragement. "Actually, we met at Marcelo's restaurant on his birthday. His reservation had been given away and he was standing alone. Destiny and I invited him to join us." Harold's eyebrows rose. "You invited a complete stranger to your table?" "He looked sad," Destiny chimed in. "And it was his birthday. Nobody should be alone on their birthday." Camille's eyes grew misty. "That was kind of you." "Your father returned the kindness tenfold," Brielle said. "He offered me a job that changed my life. He helped me pay off debts that were crushing me. He became a friend and mentor when I desperately needed both." "And a grandpa," Destiny added. "He comes to my school plays and teaches me chess and remembers everything I tell him." The table fell silent again. Brielle saw raw emotion cross both Camille and Harold's faces. "He never came to my school plays," Camille said quietly. Theodore's face crumpled. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry." "Sorry doesn't erase the past," Harold said, his voice hard. "Sorry doesn't replace all the missed moments." "You're absolutely right," Theodore said. "Nothing can replace what I lost, what I stole from all of us. But I'm hoping that acknowledging it, owning it completely, is at least a start." The food arrived, providing another brief respite. They ate in relative silence for a few minutes. Then Camille asked, "What made you change, Dad?" "Really?" Theodore put down his fork. "Losing your mother. Sitting alone in that restaurant on my birthday, realizing that I had built an empire but destroyed a family. And then meeting Brielle and Destiny, seeing what real love and sacrifice look like. Brielle works harder than anyone I know, not for money or prestige but because she loves her daughter. She shows up for Destiny every single day, puts her first, make sacrifices I never made for you. He looked at his children, tears in his eyes. Watching them together showed me what I failed to be. And it broke something open inside me. I realized I didn't want to die alone and unloved, surrounded by money but empty of meaning. So we're your redemption project? Harold asked bitterly. No, Theodore said firmly. You're my children. The people I should have loved better from the beginning. I'm not trying to redeem myself. I'm trying to become someone worthy of a second chance, whether I get one or not. Camille wiped her eyes. I want to believe you've changed. When we had coffee last month, I saw something different in you. You listened. You didn't make excuses. You just sat with the pain you'd caused. Because I deserve to sit with it, Theodore said. I caused it. The least I can do is acknowledge it fully. Destiny, who had been quietly eating her chicken fingers, suddenly spoke up. My mommy says everyone makes mistakes. But good people try to fix them. Mr. Theodore is trying really hard to fix his mistakes. Maybe you could help him. The simple wisdom of a child cut through the tension. Harold looked at Destiny, then at his father. Maybe we could, he said slowly. But it's going to take time. A lot of time. I have time, Theodore said. However much you need. Brielle reached under the table and squeezed Theodore's hand. This was progress. Painful, awkward progress, but progress nonetheless. The rest of the dinner went more smoothly. Camille talked about her art gallery, the exhibition she was planning. Harold discussed a pro bono case he was working on, helping immigrant families. Brielle shared stories about the scholarship recipients, how their lives were changing through education and opportunity. Destiny kept everyone entertained with her chatter about school, her friends, and her plans to read every book in the library. She reminds me of you at that age, Theodore said to Camille. Always reading, always curious. I was curious because you were never home to answer my questions, Camille said, but her tone was softer now, more sad than angry. I know, Theodore said. But I'm home now. If you'll let me be. As the evening wound down, Harold surprised everyone by pulling out his phone. Can we take a picture? All of us. They gathered together, Brielle and Destiny included, as the server snapped several photos. It was awkward and uncertain, but it was a start. Outside the restaurant, as they prepared to part ways, Camille hugged her father again. This time the embrace was warmer, longer. Let's do this again next month, she said. Maybe Thanksgiving? I'd like that. I'd like that too, Theodore said, his voice thick with emotion. Harold shook his father's hand, then surprised everyone by pulling him into a brief hug. We'll see you at Thanksgiving. Don't mess this up, Dad. I won't, Theodore promised. I swear I won't. In the car on the way home, Destiny fell asleep in the back seat. Theodore drove slowly, as if reluctant for the evening to end. Thank you, he said to Brielle. For being there. For showing them who I'm trying to become. You showed them that yourself, Brielle said. You were honest, humble, and open. That's all they needed to see. It's a start, Theodore said. A fragile start. All the best things start fragile, Brielle said. But with care and attention they grow strong. Theodore dropped them off at their apartment, waiting until they were safely inside before driving away. Brielle carried sleeping Destiny to bed, her heart full of hope for the family that was slowly, carefully beginning to heal. The month between the dinner and Thanksgiving passed in a flurry of activity. Theodore's relationship with his children remained tentative but growing. Camille called every Sunday. Conversations that started stiff and formal but gradually became more natural. Harold sent occasional text messages, brief updates about his cases or questions about the community outreach program. They're testing you, Brielle explained one afternoon in Theodore's office. Seeing if you'll stay consistent or if this is just a phase. I'm not going anywhere, Theodore said firmly. Not this time. At work, Brielle had become indispensable. The scholarship program had awarded its first grants, helping 15 single parents enroll in community college. The employee child care center was operating at full capacity, with a waiting list that stretched into the next year. 3 new community centers had opened in underserved neighborhoods, providing after-school programs, job training, and family services. Board members who had initially been skeptical of Theodore's pet project were now praising the positive publicity and community goodwill the programs generated. The company's reputation had improved significantly, attracting better talent and more loyal customers. You were right, Theodore told Brielle during a strategy meeting. Businesses should serve their communities. It's not just morally right. It's good business. Brielle smiled. Margaret would be proud of you. I hope so, Theodore said quietly. I hope she can see that I'm trying to honor her legacy, even if it's too late for her to witness it. As Thanksgiving approached, both Theodore and Brielle felt increasing anxiety. This would be the first time since Margaret's death that Theodore's children would be in the family home. The first time they would gather as a family for the holiday. Theodore had hired caterers, but Brielle insisted on cooking some dishes herself. It needs to feel like home, not a corporate event, she said. Gabrielle offered to help, bringing her boyfriend Marcus along. Safety in numbers, she joked. Besides, Marcus makes incredible sweet potato pie. The day before Thanksgiving, Brielle and Gabrielle spent hours in Theodore's massive kitchen, preparing food. Destiny and Marcus decorated the dining room, hanging garlands and arranging centerpieces made of autumn leaves and candles. Theodore watched them work, his eyes constantly drifting to the family photos on the walls. Pictures of Harold and Camille as children. Margaret smiling on their wedding day. Holidays passed when the family had been whole. They're beautiful memories, Brielle said, catching him staring at a photo of Margaret holding baby Camille. They are, Theodore agreed. And they hurt. But I'm learning to hold both the joy of what was and the pain of what I lost. That's growth, Brielle said. That's healing. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and bright. Brielle and Destiny arrived early, Destiny wearing a cheerful red dress and Brielle in an elegant maroon gown. They helped Theodore with last-minute preparations, setting the table with Margaret's good china and crystal. At 1 o'clock a car pulled into the driveway. Camille emerged first, carrying a bottle of wine and a small overnight bag. Behind her, Harold arrived in a rental car, also with luggage. They're staying? Theodore asked, surprise evident in his voice. I asked them to, Brielle admitted. I hope that's okay. I thought spending more time together would help. Theodore hugged her. It's more than okay. Thank you. The afternoon started awkwardly as expected. Harold and Camille walked through their childhood home with mixed emotions visible on their faces. They touched familiar objects, remembered stories, wrestled with the ghosts of holidays past. But slowly, the warmth of food and Destiny's infectious enthusiasm began to thaw the tension. Marcus told funny stories from his teaching career. Gabrielle shared amusing anecdotes about her nursing shifts. Brielle kept conversation flowing, asking questions, finding common ground. When they finally sat down to eat, Theodore stood at the head of the table, his family around him for the first time in years. I'd like to say something before we begin, he said, his voice unsteady. Last Thanksgiving I sat alone in this house eating takeout Chinese food, wishing I had died instead of Margaret. I saw no path forward, no hope for redemption or reconciliation. He looked at Brielle and Destiny. Then these two angels walked into my life and showed me that change is possible. That kindness matters. That family isn't just blood, but choice and commitment and showing up. He turned to Harold and Camille. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know sorry isn't enough. But I'm grateful you're here. More grateful than I can express. Whatever happens from here, whatever you decide about our relationship, I want you to know that I love you. I always have. And I'm committed to showing you that love through actions, not just words. Camille was crying openly. Harold blinked rapidly, fighting tears. Even Marcus and Gabrielle looked emotional. Destiny, in her innocent wisdom, stood up. I think we should go around and say what we're thankful for. That's what families do. Everyone agreed. They went around the table, each person sharing. Gabrielle was thankful for her sister's strength and for Marcus. Marcus was thankful for finding love and being welcomed into this gathering. Destiny was thankful for her new school, her new room, and Mr. Theodore, who was like the grandpa she never had. Brielle was thankful for second chances, for opportunities she never expected, and for the family she had found in unlikely places. Camille's voice shook as she spoke. I'm thankful that Dad is trying. Really trying. And I'm thankful for Brielle and Destiny, who saw something in him worth saving. Harold cleared his throat. I'm thankful for the possibility of healing. For the hope that maybe, just maybe, we can build something new from the ruins of what was broken. Theodore couldn't speak for a long moment. Finally he said, I'm thankful for all of you. For patience I don't deserve. For grace that humbles me. And for the reminder that it's never too late to become the person you should have been all along. They ate and talked, the conversation flowing more naturally as the afternoon progressed. Harold and Brielle discovered a shared interest in social justice. Camille and Gabrielle bonded over their appreciation for art. Marcus and Theodore found common ground discussing education and its role in breaking cycles of poverty. Destiny charmed everyone with her precocious questions and observations. When Harold mentioned his work with immigrant families, she asked thoughtfully, "Is it hard to help people who can't pay you?" "Sometimes," Harold admitted. "But it's important. Everyone deserves representation, not just people with money." "That's what Mr. Theodore says," Destiny said. "He says money should help people, not just make more money." Harold looked at his father with surprise. "You said that?" "I've learned it," Theodore corrected. "From Brielle, from the families we serve through our programs, from finally paying attention to what matters." After dinner they moved to the living room. Someone suggested looking at old photo albums. What started as a potentially painful trip down memory lane became something healing. Camille and Harold laughed at pictures of themselves as children, remembering family vacations and holidays. They told stories to Brielle and Destiny, memories good and bad. Theodore mostly listened, but occasionally he would add context. "I wasn't there for that," he would say about a school play or sporting event. "I should have been, but I wasn't." He didn't make excuses. He simply acknowledged the truth. "Dad," Camille said during a lull in conversation, "can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When did you realize you'd lost us? When did it finally hit you that we weren't just busy or going through a phase, but that we were actually done with you?" Theodore thought carefully before answering. "Your mother's funeral. You both came, but you stood on the opposite side of the grave from me. You didn't speak to me, didn't acknowledge me. When the service ended, you left without saying goodbye. That's when I knew I had truly lost you. And I couldn't blame you for it. I wanted to hurt you," Camille admitted. "The way you'd hurt Mom hurt us. I wanted you to feel even a fraction of the pain you'd caused." "I did," Theodore said. "I do. Every day." Harold spoke up. "When Brielle first told us about inviting you to dinner, I thought you'd hired her. I thought it was some elaborate scheme to manipulate us into forgiving you." Brielle's eyes widened. "You thought what?" "I'm sorry," Harold said. "But I've seen Dad manipulate people my whole life. Make deals, use people, discard them when they're no longer useful. It seemed too convenient that this kind single mother appeared right when he needed to rehabilitate his image." "And now?" Brielle asked quietly. Harold looked at her, then at Theodore. "Now I see that you're real. That this is real. And that maybe, just maybe, Dad actually has changed." "I have," Theodore said. "Not perfectly. I still make mistakes. I still struggle with impatience and the urge to control everything. But I'm trying. Every single day I'm trying." As the evening wore on, Gabrielle and Marcus excused themselves, leaving the core family together. Destiny fell asleep on the couch, curled up with a blanket. Brielle started to gather her things to leave, but Camille stopped her. "Stay. Please. You're part of this." "I don't want to intrude on family time," Brielle protested. "You're not intruding," Harold said. "You're family too. Maybe not by blood but by choice. Isn't that what Dad said earlier?" So Brielle stayed. They talked late into the night, conversations that covered difficult territory but also found moments of laughter and connection. At one point, Camille asked her father about the community outreach programs. Theodore immediately deferred to Brielle, encouraging her to explain the work they were doing. Brielle talked passionately about the families they were helping, the lives being changed, the cycles of poverty being broken. Both Harold and Camille listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. "This is incredible work," Harold said. "Why haven't I heard about this before?" "Because I didn't want credit," Theodore said. "I wanted to do good work quietly without fanfare or recognition. The people we help are what matter, not my reputation." "That's definitely different from the Dad I remember," Camille said. "He wanted his name on everything." "I was wrong about a lot of things," Theodore said simply. As midnight approached, they finally called it a night. Harold and Camille went to their childhood bedrooms, which Theodore had kept exactly as they left them. Brielle gently woke Destiny and Theodore walked them to the door. "Thank you for today," he said. "For everything." "Thank you for having us," Brielle replied. "This was special. Really special." "Do you think they'll stay connected?" Theodore asked, vulnerability clear in his voice. "Or was this just a one-time thing?" "I think they're trying," Brielle said. "Just like you are. And that's all any of us can do." On the drive home, with Destiny dozing in the back seat, Brielle reflected on the day. Families were complicated. Healing was messy. But love, when genuine and consistent, could bridge almost any divide. She thought about her own parents, about how much she missed them, especially on holidays. But she also felt grateful for the family she was building with Destiny, and now, unexpectedly, with Theodore and his children. Family, she realized, wasn't just about where you came from. It was about who showed up, who stayed, who chose you again and again. And in that choice, in that commitment, healing became possible. The morning after Thanksgiving, Brielle woke to her phone ringing. Theodore's name flashed on the screen. "Good morning," she answered, still groggy. "I'm sorry to call so early," Theodore said, "but Harold and Camille want to go to breakfast. All of us. Can you and Destiny join us?" "They want us there?" Brielle asked, surprised. "They specifically requested it. Said breakfast isn't the same without Destiny's chatter." An hour later they met at a local diner, the kind of place with vinyl booths and endless coffee. Camille and Harold looked more relaxed than they had the previous day, both wearing casual clothes instead of the formal attire they'd arrived in. "Morning," Camille greeted them warmly, pulling Destiny into a hug. "Did you sleep well?" "I dreamed about the turkey," Destiny announced. "It was huge." Harold laughed, a sound Brielle suspected his father hadn't heard in years. "It was pretty spectacular. Marcus can cook." Over pancakes and eggs, the conversation flowed naturally. They discussed everything from Camille's upcoming gallery exhibition to Harold's latest case to Destiny's school play. "You should come," Destiny said to Theodore's children. "I'm playing a tree in the forest scene. I get to wear brown and green and stand very still." "I wouldn't miss it," Camille said immediately. "When is it?" "Next Friday at 7, Brielle said. "But you don't have to." "We'll be there," Harold interrupted. "Both of us." Theodore's face showed such pure joy that Brielle felt tears prick her eyes. This man who had felt so alone just months ago was now surrounded by family who wanted to be present. After breakfast, Harold pulled Brielle aside while the others were saying goodbye. "I need to apologize," he said, "for suspecting your motives. I was wrong." "You were protecting your father and yourself," Brielle said. "That's natural. Maybe, but it wasn't fair to you. You saw a lonely man and showed him kindness. Then you accepted his help with grace instead of pride. That takes real character." "Your father helped me when I was drowning," Brielle said. "I'll always be grateful for that." "He's different with you and Destiny," Harold observed. "More patient. More present. I think you remind him of who he wanted to be but didn't know how." "Everyone deserves a second chance," Brielle said. "Even imperfect fathers who made mistakes." Harold nodded slowly. "I'm starting to believe that. It's hard though. All those years of resentment don't just disappear." "They don't," Brielle agreed. "But they can transform into something else if you're willing to do the work." Over the next few weeks, the tentative family bonds grew stronger. Harold started calling Theodore once a week, conversations that lasted longer each time. Camille sent photos from her gallery, updates about her life that she had previously kept private. And true to their word, both Harold and Camille flew in for Destiny's school play. They sat in the audience between Theodore and Brielle, applauding enthusiastically when Destiny stood perfectly still as a tree. After the play they all went out for ice cream. Watching Theodore with his children and Destiny, seeing them laugh together and make plans for Christmas, Brielle felt a profound sense of accomplishment. "You did this," Gabrielle whispered, nudging her sister. "You brought this family back together." "I just showed up," Brielle whispered back. "They did the rest." But even as she said it, Brielle knew it was more than that. She had created a space where healing could happen. She had modeled grace and acceptance. She had refused to let Theodore give up on his children or himself. In December, Theodore made an announcement at the office. He was restructuring his business interests, stepping back from daily operations to focus on the community outreach programs and his family. "I'm not retiring," he clarified in a company-wide meeting. "But I'm reallocating my time and energy toward what truly matters. I've spent 45 years building this company. It's strong enough to run without my constant oversight. But my family needs me. And I need them." The announcement sent ripples through the organization, but the transition was smooth. Theodore had mentored strong leaders who were ready to step up. And his presence in the community outreach division energized the work being done. One evening, as Brielle was packing up to leave, Theodore knocked on her office door. "Do you have a minute?" "Always." He sat down across from her, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "I have a proposal. Well, more of an opportunity. Or maybe a partnership." Brielle smiled. "You're rambling. That's not like you." Theodore laughed. "I know. I'm nervous. Here's the thing. I want to expand the community outreach program significantly. Open centers in 10 more cities. Create a national scholarship fund. Partner with universities and community colleges across the country. But I can't do it alone. I need someone who understands the mission, who has the passion and vision to make it extraordinary." "Okay," Brielle said slowly. I want to make you a partner, Theodore said. Equal ownership in a new foundation dedicated to these programs. It would mean more responsibility, more travel, more challenges, but also more impact. More lives changed. More families helped. Brielle stared at him, processing his words. A partner? Equal ownership. You've earned it, Theodore said. This isn't charity or favoritism. You've built something remarkable from nothing. You have ideas I never would have thought of. You connect with people in ways I can't. This foundation needs you. I don't know what to say, Brielle admitted. Say yes, Theodore said. Say yes and help me build something that outlasts both of us. Something that honors Margaret's memory and creates opportunities for thousands of families. Brielle thought about her daughter, about the life they were building, about the family they had found. She thought about all the single mothers like her, working themselves to exhaustion, wondering if they would ever get ahead. Yes, she said. Absolutely yes. Theodore stood and hugged her, a warm embrace that spoke of gratitude and friendship and shared purpose. There's one more thing, he said, pulling back. Christmas. I'm hosting. And I want everyone there. Harold, Camille, you, Destiny, Gabrielle, Marcus. Everyone who matters. Will you help me plan it? Of course, Brielle said. It would be an honor. Christmas at Theodore's house was magical. A massive tree dominated the living room, decorated with ornaments collected over decades. Stockings hung from the mantel, including new ones with Brielle's and Destiny's names embroidered on them. Harold arrived with his girlfriend, a warm woman named Lisa who was a public defender. Camille brought her partner, a thoughtful man named James who taught art history. Gabrielle and Marcus came bearing gifts and Marcus's famous pecan pie. They spent the day cooking, laughing, opening presents and building new traditions. Destiny received books from everyone, building a library that would keep her reading for months. Brielle received a beautiful necklace from Theodore, Margaret's favorite piece, that he insisted she have. She would want you to have it, he said. You embody everything she valued. Kindness, strength, compassion. In the evening, after Destiny had fallen asleep surrounded by wrapping paper and new toys, the adults gathered in the living room. Theodore stood, holding a glass of wine. I'd like to make a toast, he said. Last Christmas I was alone, broken, convinced my life was over. This Christmas I'm surrounded by family. Some by blood, some by choice, all by love. He looked at Harold and Camille. Thank you for giving me another chance. For seeing past the father I was to the father I'm trying to become. I promise to keep earning that second chance every day. He turned to Brielle. Thank you for seeing a lonely old man and inviting him to your table. For accepting my help with grace. For showing me what truly matters. You changed my life. You changed mine too, Brielle said softly. Harold stood, raising his own glass. To second chances. To forgiveness. To family however it's formed. To love, Camille added. And to Mom who would be so happy to see us all together. They clinked glasses and in that moment, everything felt possible. The past couldn't be changed but the future was wide open. Pain couldn't be erased, but it could be transformed into wisdom and compassion. Later, as Brielle gathered Destiny's things to go home, Camille pulled her aside. I need to thank you, Camille said. Really thank you. You gave me my father back. I didn't think that was possible. He did the work, Brielle said. I just reminded him why it mattered. No, you did more than that. You showed him how to love unconditionally. How to be present. How to put people before profit. That's everything. The women embraced, and Brielle realized that she hadn't just helped Theodore reconnect with his children. She had gained sisters, brothers, a family that extended beyond biology. On the drive home, Destiny stirred in her car seat. Mommy, was this the best Christmas ever? It was pretty wonderful, Brielle agreed. Mr. Theodore isn't lonely anymore, Destiny observed. We fixed him. Brielle smiled. He fixed himself, baby. We just reminded him he was worth fixing. I'm glad he's part of our family, Destiny said. Even if he's not really our grandpa, he feels like one. The best kind of family, Brielle said, is the one we choose. And we chose each other. As the year drew to a close, Brielle reflected on everything that had changed since that night at the restaurant. She had gone from struggling to thrive. From surviving to building. From isolation to community. But more than her circumstances had changed. She had grown stronger, more confident, more certain of her worth. She had learned to accept help without shame, to offer it without expectation, and to build bridges instead of walls. And Theodore, once broken and alone, had found his way back to humanity. He had learned that true wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts but in connections, in love freely given and gratefully received, in showing up when it mattered. Together they had created something beautiful, a family built not on obligation but on choice, not on perfection but on grace, not on what was lost but on what could still be found. January brought new beginnings. The foundation Theodore and Brielle were creating took shape rapidly. They secured office space, hired staff, and began developing programs that would serve communities across the country. Brielle worked 16-hour days, energized by the work despite the exhaustion. She interviewed potential scholarship recipients, developed curriculum for job training programs, and met with community leaders to understand local needs. Theodore watched her with admiration. "You were born for this," he told her one evening as they reviewed applications. "I've never seen anyone connect with people the way you do." "I know what it's like to need help and not know where to find it," Brielle said. "If we can be that resource for even a fraction of families, it's worth every late night." Harold had become increasingly involved in the foundation's legal structure, offering pro bono assistance to ensure everything was properly organized. He flew in twice a month, spending weekends working with Brielle and Theodore on strategy and compliance. "I never thought I'd enjoy working with Dad," Harold admitted during one of these visits. "But this is different. He's different. He actually listens now. He's learned to value people over profit," Brielle said. "That changes everything." Camille contributed too, using her connections in the art world to organize fundraising galas. The first event, held in March, raised over $2 million for the scholarship fund. During the gala, Theodore gave a speech that left few dry eyes in the room. He talked about Margaret, about his failures as a father and husband, and about how a single mother and her 7-year-old daughter had saved his life by inviting him to dinner. "I stand before you not as a successful businessman," he said, "but as a man who lost everything that mattered and was given a second chance. This foundation exists because someone showed me kindness when I deserved judgment. Because someone saw potential in me when I saw only failure. And now, we're here to create opportunities for others to transform their lives." The crowd gave a standing ovation. But what moved Brielle most was seeing Harold and Camille on either side of their father, pride evident on their faces. After the gala, the family gathered at Theodore's house. It had become their tradition to spend weekends together when Harold and Camille were in town. "Dad," Camille said during dinner, "I have news. James and I are getting married. This summer." The table erupted in congratulations. Theodore stood and embraced his daughter, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so happy for you," he said. "James is wonderful. You deserve every happiness." "And Dad," Camille continued, "I want you to walk me down the aisle. Really walk me down it this time. Not distracted, not on your phone. Just you and me." Theodore couldn't speak. He simply nodded, holding his daughter close. Harold cleared his throat. "Since we're sharing news, Lisa and I are moving in together. We found a place here in the city. I'm transferring to a firm locally." "You're moving back?" Theodore asked, his voice filled with wonder. "Yeah," Harold said. "Turns out I want to be closer to family." "Who knew?" Later, when everyone had gone to bed and only Brielle and Theodore remained in the living room, he turned to her with gratitude in his eyes. "This is because of you," he said. "All of it. My children are back in my life. We're building something meaningful. I have purpose again." "This is because you changed," Brielle corrected. "You did the hard work of becoming someone worth having a relationship with." "Speaking of relationships," Theodore said, shifting in his seat, "I've been thinking. The foundation needs to be sustainable beyond my lifetime. I'm 71 years old. I won't be here forever." "Don't talk like that," Brielle protested. "It's reality," Theodore said gently. "And I want to ensure the work continues. I'm restructuring my estate. The foundation will receive the majority of my assets. Harold and Camille will be well provided for, but the bulk of the wealth will fund scholarships and programs for decades to come." He pulled out a folder. "And I want to ensure you're protected too. I'm establishing a trust fund for Destiny's education, from kindergarten through graduate school, fully funded. And I'm gifting you 20% ownership in Bennett Enterprises." Brielle's hands trembled. "Theodore, that's too much. I can't." "You can and you will," Theodore said firmly. "You've dedicated yourself to this work. You've helped me reconnect with my family. You've shown me what unconditional love looks like. I want you and Destiny to be secure always." "I don't know what to say," Brielle whispered. "Say you'll accept help without guilt, the way you taught me to do." Brielle nodded, tears flowing freely. "Okay. Yes. Thank you." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Theodore said, "There's something else. I'd like to establish a special program within the foundation. The Margaret Bennett Initiative for Single Parents. It would provide comprehensive support, childcare, education funding, job training, housing assistance, everything a single parent needs to build a stable life." "That's beautiful," Brielle said. "She would love that." "I want you to lead it," Theodore continued. "Not as my employee but as co-director. Equal say in all decisions. Your vision combined with the resources to make it reality." Brielle looked at this man who had entered her life so unexpectedly and changed everything. "I'd be honored." Over the following months, the Margaret Bennett Initiative took shape. Brielle hired a team of social workers, counselors, and job coaches. They opened resource centers in 5 cities, providing wraparound services for single parents. The first families began enrolling in April. Brielle made it a point to meet each one personally, hearing their stories, understanding their struggles, designing individualized support plans. One mother, a woman named Nicole with 3 children under 10, cried when she learned she'd been accepted into the program. "I've been working 3 jobs, Nicole said, "and I still can't keep up with rent. My kids eat dinner at 8 o'clock because that's when I get home. I'm drowning." "Not anymore," Brielle said, taking her hand. "We're going to help you build a foundation. Childcare so your kids are safe and supported. Job training so you can get a career instead of just jobs. Housing assistance so you're not one paycheck from homelessness. You're going to be okay." Nicole hugged her tightly. "How did you know exactly what I needed?" "Because I lived it," Brielle said simply. "Every struggle you're facing, I've been there. And someone helped me. Now I get to help you." Stories like Nicole's became common. Single mothers who were exhausted and hopeless found support and opportunity. Their children, who had been anxious and struggling, began to thrive with stable housing and consistent care. Theodore attended as many intake meetings as possible, listening to each family's story with the same attention he had once given to business deals. "This is my legacy," he told Brielle one day. "Not the companies I built or the money I made. These families. These changed lives." Gabrielle, watching her sister flourish, couldn't hide her pride. "Look at you," she said one Sunday afternoon. "Running a national foundation. Changing lives. Making a real difference." "It doesn't feel real sometimes," Brielle admitted. "A year ago I was cleaning hotel rooms and stocking grocery shelves. Now I'm directing programs that serve thousands of families." "It's real," Gabrielle assured her. "And you deserve every bit of it." In June, the family gathered for Camille's wedding. It was a beautiful outdoor ceremony, with flowers everywhere and sunshine warming the guests. Theodore walked Camille down the aisle, present in every moment, his hand steady on his daughter's arm. Brielle watched from her seat, Destiny beside her in a pretty blue dress. Harold stood as best man, his face full of emotion as he watched his sister marry. Lisa sat in the front row, already accepted as family. During the reception, Theodore danced with Camille, and Brielle heard him apologizing again for missing her first wedding, for not being the father she deserved. "Dad," Camille said loud enough for nearby guests to hear, "that was then. This is now. You're here, really here, and that's what matters." Later, Camille threw her bouquet directly to Brielle, who caught it with surprise. "Your turn next," Camille called out, laughing. Brielle blushed, but she couldn't deny that her life felt full in ways she'd never imagined. Not romantically, perhaps, but in purpose, in family, in belonging. As summer turned to fall, the foundation expanded again. They opened centers in 10 more cities. The scholarship program awarded grants to over 500 single parents. Childcare centers were operating at capacity across the country. Business publications began featuring stories about Theodore's transformation from corporate titan to philanthropic leader. But he deflected credit at every interview. "I'm not the story," he would say. "The families we serve are the story. The woman who went from working 3 jobs to finishing her degree and becoming a nurse, that's the story. The single father who got job training and now supports his children with dignity, that's what matters." In October, Harold made an announcement that surprised everyone. "I'm leaving my firm," he said during Sunday dinner. "I'm starting a non-profit law practice. Pro bono work for low-income families, immigration cases, civil rights issues. The foundation is going to be our biggest client." "Harold, that's incredible," Theodore said. "But are you sure? You've worked so hard to make partner." "I don't want to be a partner in a corporate firm," Harold said. "I want to do work that matters. You taught me that, Dad. Better late than never." Theodore's eyes filled with tears. Your mother would be so proud of you. I'm proud of you. I learned from the best, Harold said, looking at both his father and Brielle. Both of you showed me that success isn't about money or prestige. It's about impact. About helping people who need it most. As the year drew to a close, the foundation had served over 10,000 families. Lives had been transformed. Cycles of poverty had been broken. Hope had been restored. At the annual board meeting, Theodore stood to address the members. When we started this foundation, I thought it was about atoning for my mistakes. About trying to become a better person. But it's become so much more than that. It's about honoring my late wife's values. It's about building a legacy that matters. And it's about proving that change is possible at any age. He gestured to Brielle. None of this would exist without Brielle Washington. Her vision, her compassion, her tireless work has built something extraordinary. And I'm honored to work alongside her. The board applauded. But what moved Brielle most was seeing Harold and Camille in the audience, their faces full of love and respect for their father. After the meeting, as they all walked to the parking garage together, Destiny skipped ahead while the adults talked. You know what's amazing? Camille said. A year ago, I couldn't stand to be in the same room with Dad. Now I can't imagine my life without these Sunday dinners, without being part of this work. Forgiveness is powerful, Brielle said. When it's genuine and earned. He earned it, Harold agreed. Every day he shows up. Every life he changes. Every time he chooses us over work. He's proven he's different. Theodore, walking slightly behind them with Lisa, heard every word. And for the first time in years he felt truly at peace with his choices. The past couldn't be changed. Margaret was gone. Years with his children had been lost. But the present was full, and the future was bright with possibility. And it had all started because a single mother and her daughter had seen a lonely old man and offered him a seat at their table. Sometimes, Brielle thought, the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles. Spring arrived with renewal and unexpected surprises. The foundation's second annual gala was approaching, and this year they had committed to doubling their outreach. Brielle had been traveling constantly, visiting new centers, meeting with community leaders, training staff. One April morning, Theodore called her into his office with unusual urgency. I need to tell you something before the board meeting, he said, his expression serious. I'm selling Bennett Enterprises. Brielle sat down slowly. What? Why? Because I don't need it anymore, Theodore said simply. The company runs well without my constant involvement. I've built strong leadership. And frankly, I'd rather devote my remaining years to the foundation, to my family, to what actually matters. Your children, do they know? I'm telling them tonight. I wanted you to hear it first. What will you do with the proceeds? Theodore smiled. Fund the foundation endowment fully. Ensure we can operate in perpetuity, serving families for generations. Set up trusts for my grandchildren when Harold and Camille have them. And create a special fund for program innovation, letting people like you experiment with new ways to help families. Brielle shook her head in wonder. You're really doing this? I am. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing meaning over money. It feels right. That evening, the family gathered at Theodore's house. He had prepared dinner himself, a rare occurrence that signaled the importance of the conversation to come. After they ate, Theodore cleared his throat. I have an announcement. I'm selling Bennett Enterprises. The sale should finalize by summer. Harold and Camille exchanged glances. Then Camille asked, Are you sure, Dad? That company is your life's work. It was my life's work, Theodore corrected. But life's work can change. Building that company was my first chapter. The foundation is my second. And this chapter is the one that matters. What about our inheritance? Harold asked bluntly. I'm not saying I need it, but I want to understand your thinking. Theodore appreciated his son's directness. You and Camille will each receive $5 million outright. Additionally, you're both on the foundation board with voting rights and salaries if you choose to take them. The rest, approximately $200 million, goes to the foundation endowment. The room fell silent. Harold whistled softly. That's a lot of money for the foundation. It ensures we can help families forever, Theodore said. Beyond my lifetime, beyond yours. Isn't that better than another yacht or vacation home gathering dust? Camille stood and hugged her father. It's perfect, Dad. Mom would be so proud. Harold nodded slowly. You know what? I agree. We don't need excessive wealth. We have good careers, comfortable lives. But thousands of families need help. This is the right choice. Later, as they were cleaning up, Harold pulled Brielle aside. I want to make sure you're protected in all this, he said. You're not just an employee, you're family. And you should be treated as such in any estate planning. Your father has already been incredibly generous, Brielle protested. Has he established guardianship arrangements for Destiny? Harold asked. Made sure she's provided for if something happens to you? Brielle paused. No, we haven't discussed that. You should, Harold said gently. I'm a lawyer. I think about worst-case scenarios professionally. Let me help you set up proper documentation. Trusts, guardianship, all of it. Over the next few weeks, Harold helped Brielle establish comprehensive legal protections for Destiny. They created trusts, named guardians, Gabrielle as primary with Theodore as backup, and ensured Destiny would be financially secure regardless of what happened. Thank you for this, Brielle said after signing the final documents. I've been so focused on work that I didn't think about these protections. That's what family does, Harold said. We look out for each other. The sale of Bennett Enterprises proceeded smoothly. By July it was finalized. Theodore walked out of his final board meeting as chairman emeritus, ready to fully embrace his new role as foundation director. How do you feel? Brielle asked when he returned to the foundation office. Free, Theodore said simply. For the first time in 45 years, I'm not carrying the weight of that company. I'm just a man trying to do good work. That summer brought more changes. Camille announced she was pregnant, due in early winter. Harold and Lisa got engaged. Gabrielle and Marcus set a wedding date for the following spring. Everyone's getting married and having babies, Destiny observed during one Sunday dinner. When do I get a cousin to play with? Soon, sweetie, Camille promised. Very soon. Theodore was over the moon about becoming a grandfather. He talked constantly about baby preparations, asking Brielle for advice since she'd raised Destiny alone. Just be present, Brielle counseled. That's what matters most. Show up, pay attention, be engaged. You've learned how to do that. In September, the foundation launched its most ambitious program yet, the Family Stability Initiative. It combined housing assistance, job training, childcare, healthcare navigation, and financial literacy training into one comprehensive package. We're not just helping people survive, Brielle explained to a reporter covering the launch. We're helping them build stable, thriving lives. That requires addressing all the barriers at once, not one at a time. The program was immediately oversubscribed, with thousands of applications in the first month. They had to expand faster than planned, opening new offices and hiring additional staff. Nicole, one of their first clients from the Margaret Bennett Initiative, had completed her nursing degree and now worked at a hospital making $60,000 a year. At the foundation staff meeting, she shared her testimony. A year ago, I was working 3 jobs and still couldn't pay rent, she said, her voice strong. My kids were suffering. I was suffering. I saw no way out. Then I met Brielle, who told me about this program. They helped with childcare so I could go to school. They helped with rent so we had stability. They connected me with tutors when I struggled with coursework. And now I'm a nurse. I have health insurance. My kids are thriving. I have hope. The room erupted in applause. Theodore, sitting next to Brielle, squeezed her hand. This is why we do it, he whispered. This exactly. In November, Camille went into labor 3 weeks early. Theodore, Brielle, Harold, Lisa, and James crowded into the hospital waiting room, anxious and excited. When the baby finally arrived, a healthy girl named Margaret after her grandmother, Theodore cried openly. Can I hold her? He asked Camille. Of course, Dad. He cradled his granddaughter carefully, this tiny person who carried his late wife's name. Hello, Margaret, he whispered. I'm your grandpa, and I promise you I'm going to be present for every moment. Every birthday, every school play, every milestone. I learned my lesson with your mom. I won't make the same mistakes with you. Camille watched her father with her daughter, seeing the transformation complete. This was not the man who had missed her childhood. This was someone new, someone better, someone worthy of his granddaughter's love. Brielle and Destiny visited the next day, bringing flowers and a handmade card. She's so tiny, Destiny breathed, peering at baby Margaret. Was I ever that small? You were, Brielle confirmed. And just as perfect. Theodore introduced Brielle to his granddaughter formally. Margaret, this is Brielle. She's the reason you get to know your grandpa. She saved my life so I could be here for yours. Have you ever witnessed a life completely transformed through kindness and second chances? If this story inspires you, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us continue sharing stories of hope and redemption. As the year drew to a close, The family celebrated their second Thanksgiving together, this time with baby Margaret as the newest addition. The table had expanded to accommodate Lisa's parents, Marcus, and several foundation staff members who had become like family. Theodore stood to give his annual toast, but this year his voice was different. Strong, confident, at peace. 2 years ago, I sat alone on my birthday wondering if my life had any meaning. Today I'm surrounded by family, both blood and chosen. I have a granddaughter who will grow up knowing her grandfather actually shows up. I have children who have forgiven me for being absent. I have a foundation that serves thousands of families. And I have friends who became family by choosing to see the good in a broken old man. He raised his glass. To second chances. To forgiveness earned and freely given. To love that transforms. And to the understanding that it's never too late to become who you should have been all along. To family, everyone echoed, glasses clinking. Later, as they were cleaning up, Harold pulled his father aside. Dad, I need to tell you something. Lisa and I are adopting. We've been in the process for months and we just got matched with a 2-year-old boy. Theodore's face lit up. Harold, that's wonderful. Truly wonderful. I learned it from you, Harold said. Well, the new you. Family isn't just biology. It's choice and commitment and love. We're choosing this child just like you chose to be present for us again. When do you meet him? Next month. We're nervous but excited. Theodore hugged his son. You're going to be an amazing father. And I'm going to be the most present grandfather I can be. As the evening wound down, Brielle found Theodore on the back patio, looking up at the stars. Penny, for your thoughts? She asked. I'm thinking about Margaret, he said. Wishing she could see all this. See what her death set in motion in the strangest way. I think she can see it, Brielle said. And I think she's proud. I hope so. I spent so many years disappointing her. At least in the end, maybe I'm finally becoming the man she believed I could be. You are, Brielle assured him. Every day you show up. You love without condition. You serve without expectation. That's growth. That's healing. Theodore turned to face her. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You know that, right? You're the catalyst for everything good that's happened. We helped each other, Brielle said. That's what family does. As they stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars, both reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a chance encounter at a restaurant to a bond that had transformed multiple lives. The past couldn't be erased. Margaret was still gone. Years had been lost. Mistakes had been made. But the present was full of love, purpose, and connection. The future was bright with possibility. And it had all started because one woman had seen a lonely stranger and decided that kindness mattered more than comfort. Sometimes, Brielle thought, the smallest decisions create the biggest miracles. And sometimes, when you open your heart to help someone else, you end up saving yourself too. The morning of Theodore's 71st birthday dawned clear and bright. Exactly 1 year had passed since Brielle and Destiny had invited him to their table, changing the course of all their lives. Theodore woke in his home, but it felt different now. The house that had been silent and empty for so long was full of life. Baby Margaret's toys were scattered in the living room from last night's visit. Photos of the family covered every surface. Harold and Lisa with their newly adopted son Marcus. Camille and James with baby Margaret. Brielle and Destiny at the foundation's ribbon-cutting ceremony. His phone buzzed with birthday messages. All 3 of his children had already texted. Gabrielle had sent a funny meme. Even foundation board members were reaching out. But the message that made him smile most was from Destiny. Happy birthday, Mr. Theodore. We're going to celebrate you so much today. Get ready. The plan for the day was simple. Dinner at Marcello's restaurant, the same place where it had all begun. But this time, Theodore wouldn't be alone. He arrived at the office to find his desk covered in cards and flowers. Staff members stopped by throughout the morning to wish him well. The outpouring of affection from people he'd only known a year was overwhelming. You've changed this company's culture, Patricia told him. People actually feel valued here now. That's because of you and Brielle. At noon, Brielle knocked on his door carrying a small gift. I know we're celebrating tonight, she said, but I wanted to give you this privately. Theodore unwrapped the package to find a leather-bound journal. Inside, on the first page, Brielle had written, for recording the memories you never want to forget. From your family who will never forget you. The subsequent pages were filled with notes from everyone. Harold writing about how his father had supported his transition to nonprofit work. Camille describing the joy of watching him bond with baby Margaret. Destiny's crayon drawings of their chess games and Sunday dinners. Theodore couldn't speak. He simply held the journal and let tears fall freely. "You've given us so much," Brielle said. "We wanted to give you something that mattered. Proof that you're loved, that you've changed lives, that your transformation is real and recognized." That evening they all gathered at Marcelo's restaurant. Theodore had reserved the same corner table where Brielle and Destiny had sat a year ago. But this time they pushed together multiple tables to accommodate the growing family: Harold, Lisa, and young Marcus; Camille, James, and baby Margaret; Brielle and Destiny; Gabrielle and her husband Marcus. Even Patricia and Grace from the office had been invited. The hostess who had turned Theodore away a year ago was still working. Her face paled when she saw him. "Mr. Bennett," she stammered. "I'm so sorry about last year. There was a terrible mix-up with your reservation." Theodore smiled kindly. "It's all right. That mix-up led to the best year of my life. Everything happens for a reason." As they settled at their tables, Theodore looked around at the faces surrounding him. His children, no longer estranged but present and engaged. His grandchildren who would grow up knowing a grandfather who showed up. Brielle and Destiny who had started this entire transformation. And friends who had become family. "Should we order?" Camille asked. "In a moment," Theodore said. "First, I want to say something." The table quieted, everyone turning their attention to him. "1 year ago tonight I stood in this restaurant, alone and forgotten, convinced my life was over. I had lost my wife, alienated my children, and built an empire that meant nothing because I had no one to share it with." He looked at Brielle and Destiny. "Then these two angels invited a stranger to their table. They showed me kindness when I deserved judgment. They accepted my help with grace when pride would have made them refuse. And they reminded me that family is built through choice and commitment, not just biology." He turned to Harold and Camille. "You both had every reason to shut me out forever. Instead, you gave me a chance to prove I'd changed. You let me back into your lives cautiously, wisely, but genuinely. And you've allowed me to be the grandfather I never was as a father." His voice broke slightly. "Your mother would be so proud of the people you've become. Not because of me but despite me. And I'm grateful every day that you're willing to let me be part of your lives now." Camille was crying openly. Harold blinked rapidly, fighting tears. Theodore continued, "This year has taught me that it's never too late to change. That second chances are possible when you do the work to earn them. That love freely given creates ripples that touch more lives than you can imagine." He raised his water glass. "So tonight, on my 71st birthday, I'm not alone. I'm surrounded by the greatest wealth anyone could ask for. A family that loves me, work that matters, and the peace that comes from finally becoming the person I should have been all along." Before anyone could toast, the restaurant manager appeared, the same Mr. Peterson who had overseen the reservation disaster a year ago. "Mr. Bennett," he said, looking nervous, "I wanted to personally apologize for the error with your reservation last year. It was unacceptable and I take full responsibility. Please, let me comp your entire meal tonight as a gesture of apology." The table fell silent, everyone watching to see how Theodore would respond. Theodore stood and extended his hand to Mr. Peterson. "I appreciate the gesture, but it's not necessary. That error led to the best thing that ever happened to me. In fact, I should thank you." Mr. Peterson looked confused but relieved. "You're very gracious, sir." "We all make mistakes," Theodore said. "What matters is what we do afterward. You're clearly trying to make amends. That shows character." As Mr. Peterson walked away, Harold shook his head in amazement. "A year ago, you would have ruined that man's career over a reservation error." "A year ago, I was a different person," Theodore acknowledged. "A worse person. I'm trying to be better." The meal was joyful and chaotic in the best way. Baby Margaret fussed occasionally and young Marcus spilled his juice. Destiny told elaborate stories about school that may or may not have been entirely accurate. Adults talked over each other, laughed too loudly, and lingered over dessert. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful. As they were finishing dessert, Brielle stood. "I have an announcement too. The Foundation Board approved a major expansion this morning. We're opening centers in 25 new cities next year. We're projecting we'll serve over 50,000 families annually." The table erupted in applause. "But more importantly," Brielle continued, "Harold has agreed to serve as the Foundation's General Counsel. Camille will chair our Arts and Culture Initiative, bringing creative programs to the communities we serve. And my sister Gabrielle is joining as Director of Healthcare Navigation." Theodore's face showed pure joy. "The whole family working together?" "The whole family," Brielle confirmed. "Building something that matters. Creating opportunities. Changing lives." Together. Lisa raised her glass. To the foundation. To family. To second chances. They all drank to that, the clinking of glasses creating a chorus of celebration. Later, as the party was breaking up, Theodore found himself alone with Brielle for a moment. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what specifically?" Brielle asked. "There's a long list. For seeing me when I was invisible. For inviting me to your table when you had every reason to walk past. For accepting my help with grace instead of pride. For showing me what unconditional love looks like. For helping me reconnect with my children. For building this foundation with me. For making me part of your family. Should I go on?" Brielle laughed. "I think that covers it." "In all seriousness," Theodore said, "you saved my life. I don't know where I'd be right now if you and Destiny hadn't shown me kindness that night. Probably alone in that big house, waiting to die, convinced I'd destroyed everything that mattered. Instead," Brielle prompted. "Instead I'm here. Surrounded by family, doing meaningful work, being the grandfather I never was as a father. I have purpose. I have love. I have peace." "You did the hard work," Brielle said. "I just reminded you it was possible." As they rejoined the group, Destiny came running up, nearly knocking Theodore over with an enthusiastic hug. "Best birthday ever?" she asked. "Best birthday ever," Theodore confirmed. "Thank you, sweet girl, for inviting a sad old man to your table a year ago." "You're not old," Destiny said seriously. "You're just experienced. That's what Mommy says." The night ended with hugs and promises to gather again soon. As Theodore drove home, he thought about the journey of the past year. He had gone from broken to healing. From isolated to connected. From meaningless success to purposeful service. His children were back in his life, not because he'd bought their forgiveness, but because he'd earned it through consistent action and genuine change. His grandchildren would grow up knowing a grandfather who showed up, who was present, who loved them without condition. The foundation he and Brielle had built would serve families for generations, long after he was gone. And he had found a family in Brielle, Destiny, Gabrielle, and Marcus, people who had chosen to love him when he didn't deserve it. The next morning, Theodore woke to an email from Harold with the subject line, "Thank you, Dad." The message was simple: "Last night was perfect. I'm proud to be your son. I'm proud of the man you've become. Mom would be too. Love you." Theodore read it 3 times, then forwarded it to Brielle with a note. "This is because of you. Thank you for giving me my family back." Brielle responded immediately, "This is because you chose to change. I just reminded you it was possible. Proud of you." As Theodore started his day, he reflected on something Destiny had said during one of their chess games weeks ago. "Mr. Theodore, you're proof that people can change if they really want to. That gives me hope." That's what it was all about, he realized. Hope. The hope that it's never too late. The hope that second chances are real. The hope that love can heal even the deepest wounds. He had spent 70 years chasing success, building wealth, pursuing power. And in 1 year he had learned that none of it mattered compared to love, family, and service. His phone buzzed with a text from Camille. "Dad, can you come over this afternoon? Margaret wants to see her grandpa." Theodore smiled and immediately responded, "I'll be there in an hour. Wouldn't miss it for anything." That afternoon, as he held his granddaughter and watched her tiny fingers wrap around his, Theodore felt complete peace. This was what mattered. This present moment. This connection. This love. Margaret would have been so happy to see him like this. Finally present. Finally engaged. Finally being the man she had always believed he could be. As baby Margaret fell asleep in his arms, Theodore whispered a promise. "I'm going to be here for you, little one. For every moment, every milestone, every need. You'll never wonder if your grandpa loves you. I'll show you every single day." Camille watched from the doorway, tears in her eyes. "You're a different person, Dad. The best version of yourself." "I'm trying to be," Theodore said. "Every day I'm trying." That evening back at home, Theodore sat on his patio and opened the journal Brielle had given him. He began to write, documenting the past year, the transformation, the lessons learned. He wrote about that night at the restaurant when 2 strangers had shown him kindness. About accepting Brielle's invitation and how it had cracked open his heart. About the painful process of reaching out to his children and facing their justified anger. About the slow rebuilding of trust. About baby Margaret's birth and holding his granddaughter for the first time. About Harold's adoption of young Marcus and the expansion of their family. He wrote about the foundation and the thousands of families they were serving. About watching single mothers transform their lives with support and opportunity. About Nicole and others who had gone from struggling to thriving. But most of all he wrote about gratitude. Gratitude for second chances. Gratitude for forgiveness earned and freely given. Gratitude for a single mother and her daughter who had seen a lonely old man and decided that kindness mattered more than comfort. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Theodore felt profound peace. His past was filled with mistakes and regrets. But his present was rich with love and purpose. And his future, however many years remained, would be devoted to showing up, serving others, and being the person he should have been all along. The phone rang. Brielle's name appeared on the screen. "Hey," he answered. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," Brielle said. "Destiny wanted me to call and tell you she loves you and she's glad you're part of our family." Theodore's eyes filled with tears. "Tell her I love her too. And thank you, Brielle. For everything. For all of it." "We're family," Brielle said simply. "That's what we do. We show up for each other." After they hung up, Theodore returned to his journal. On a fresh page he wrote, "1 year ago I was denied a table on my birthday. Today I have a table surrounded by family. All because a kind woman and her beautiful daughter made room for a stranger. They taught me that family is built through choice, that second chances are real, and that it's never too late to become who you should have been. I will spend the rest of my life earning the love they've shown me and paying forward the grace I've been given. This is my legacy. Not wealth or power, but love, service, and the ripple effects of choosing kindness over comfort." He closed the journal and looked up at the stars, the same stars he'd looked at a year ago when he'd felt so alone. "Thank you, Margaret," he whispered to his late wife, "for sending Brielle and Destiny into my life. For not giving up on me even from beyond. I'm finally becoming the man you always believed I could be." A shooting star crossed the sky, and Theodore chose to believe it was Margaret's way of saying she was proud. And in that moment, under the vast expanse of stars, surrounded by the invisible presence of those he loved both living and departed, Theodore Bennett felt truly wealthy for the first time in his life. Not because of money in the bank or companies owned or power wielded, but because he had learned the only truth that really mattered. Love freely given, grace humbly accepted, and kindness consistently shown had the power to transform everything. It had transformed him from a lonely billionaire to a beloved grandfather and friend. It had transformed Brielle from a struggling single mother to a foundation director changing thousands of lives. It had transformed his relationship with his children from estranged to healing to thriving. And it had all started with one simple invitation: "Would you like to join us for dinner?" Sometimes, Theodore thought, the smallest gestures create the biggest miracles. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to accept help, humble enough to change, and committed enough to show up day after day, redemption isn't just possible. It's guaranteed.